Ladies and gentlemen, I'll be talking to you on my experiences as a father and a doctor of a child with Down syndrome, the parent of a child with Down syndrome, as well as a doctor who has been treating children with Down syndrome. Can our child go to a normal school? This was the first question from my wife after our child was born. Can our child go to a normal school? That was 28 years back, to a doctor who was managing children. With the limited knowledge about Down syndrome at that time and the limited facilities available, my answer was silence. I had to learn from scratch. I had to support my wife and daughter to accept and manage a precious baby with trisomy 21. I took up the challenge because in those days, in the medical schools, we were taught to diagnose. It's a spotter. You diagnose a case of Down syndrome without any problem. But then what do? You were told it's a genetic condition, there's a trisomy, and there's no medicine that can alter the trisomy. But a stress on counseling and stress on the therapies available were not there at that time. And the reaction from my doctors and close friends said, this is a spotter, but it's a spotter for an exam. And nothing can be done. We feel sorry for you. Anyway, you have a normal elder daughter. That's great. Fate, leave everything to fate. Only a few of them said, have faith in God. He will guide you through. Acquaintances, not too close to you. And this is what the advice given by one of my acquaintances. As a doctor, you should be knowing how difficult it is to have a child with Down syndrome. I know a good orphanage in a distant city. Give them a donation and leave the child there. They will take care of her very well and forget that you ever had such a child. A painful statement. My wife almost cried after having carried the baby for 9 months. Somebody's asking you to just leave up the child and forget about the child. People can be cruel at times. Of course, they have not said this with an intention of hurting you, but this is what usually happens. Over the years, people there to my wife, your husband is a pediatrician and you still have a child with Down syndrome? Was he not able to diagnose this? Well, if he was able to diagnose this, then what? Oh, we are sorry. The family connections are good, but my relatives, someone has to be blamed, I'm not agreeable to get my son married to the sister of a person with Down syndrome. This was a reaction of one of the alliances we had for my elder daughter. In India, we still have the majority of them are arranged marriages. So this is how it goes. When they know that the girl has a sister or a brother who has Down syndrome, well, we are sorry. I took another challenge with faith in God and support of some of our sincere friends and relatives. Quite a few years later, a young mother brought a 3-month-old baby to me with fever and cough. The child had trisomy 21 and a congenital heart disease. Was wondering whether the mother was aware of this. Now, how do I put it to her if she doesn't know? I prescribed the medicines for her fever and cough and thought of discussing the child's condition in the subsequent visit. So I asked her to come a week later when the cough has subsided. I said, I want to discuss a few things about the child. But then she smiled at me and said, Doctor, my child has Down syndrome, isn't it? Yes. She also has a heart problem, isn't it? Yes. So I thought that these things have made it easier for me because she was aware of all these things. But her next question was, why are all the doctors so cruel? I was taken aback. Did I say or do something which hurt her? So I apologized and asked her, did I do something wrong? No, she said, I have taken this child to almost all doctors in the south of India, major cities, they all say, oh, it's a case of Down syndrome, nothing to be done. It's 1 in 800. For you, it's 1 in 800. For me, it's everything. So I thought about it. Are doctors really cruel? Is it because they are cruel that they say like this? Well, doctors were not updated on Down syndrome at that time. As I mentioned earlier, we could spot Down syndrome, but we didn't know what to say. They were not fully aware of the various management options. Doctors believe only in writing prescriptions, and when you cannot write a prescription, you are at your wit's end. Therapies were few. There was only physiotherapy and speech therapy available, that too in limited major centers. And many of them were not aware that therapies will do wonder for these children. They have a heavy patient load, especially in developing countries, and there's limited time for interaction. Well, a normal government hospital in my state, on an average on a day, a doctor sees about 80 to 120 patients, 80 to 120. So you can imagine how much time he has for interaction. Even a private hospital where I'm working, even though I limit it, it goes from 40 to 60. So that is the load that we have. And then, well, doctors in those days were also trained to be good counselors. We were not trained to give across or transfer across the bad news. Well, your baby has cancer, or your baby has a terminal illness, or for example, your baby has Down syndrome. You don't know how to do it. And because of these, whatever they said were blunders at times, and so they appeared cruel. Nothing can be done. A statement stating nothing can be done means a doctor says that there's no treatment to alter the trisomy. But there are a lot of things that can be done. But that comes as a shock to the mother or the father. Nothing can be done. This is nothing but a piece of flesh with some life in it. All these codes are what doctors have told parents, the real codes. There's nothing but a piece of flesh with some life in it. Of course, ignorance of the doctor at that time, now I don't think any doctor would say like that. Don't waste your time running around. Just accept it, because you cannot do anything. Nobody can do anything. Don't go around doctor shopping. And at another, why don't you get a pet in your house? They will gel together. Really hurting when you have a child and say it's as good as only a pet in your house. Always said probably in good intention by those untrained in counseling, but terribly hurting, disheartening, and even cruel to the parent. So that was a basic reason, because their doctors were not aware, and doctors were not trained, and doctors were not updated. Now, thanks to the mother, I decided I have to do something about it. Not because I belong to the doctor community, but people were getting hurt with the way the whole world reacted to that. I formed a trust, the Down Syndrome Trust, in the year 2000, and started a clinic for children with Down syndrome. That was the first of its kind in my state, exclusively, where I was seeing all the Down syndrome cases and following them up. I went around giving lectures to parents, because they are also not fully aware of what is to be done, to doctors, telling them how to convey the message, what is to be done. There are facilities available. A lot of things can be done for them, and the public to accept them, not to single them out, but they're part of a society, part of our own self. I was invited to various medical colleges to give lectures and gave talks on various pediatric conferences, both state level and national level, again, to create awareness. And things have changed tremendously, not just because I did all those things, but the awareness came in by and by, and then people realized that something can be done, and then that message has to be conveyed to the mother. So more and more parents came in when the Down syndrome clinic was known to others, with more and more issues, more challenging than managing the child. Education was a new experience at every turn. I thought I could handle them. I could tell them about the various therapies available, but then there were other problems also which I had to deal. A mother A, doctor, my first child has Down syndrome. I'm pregnant now. My husband says that if I have yet another child with Down syndrome, he will give me the talaq. He will divorce me. Please do something so that I don't have another child with Down syndrome. If I have another child with Down syndrome and he leaves me, I'll be forced to kill the child and commit suicide. Doctor, do something. A real dilemma. Another child and the mother B. Doctor, I was the most outstanding student in my class, both in school and in college. I was interested in building up my career, became the vice president of a company, and only then did I get married. I got married to another brilliant and outstanding entrepreneur. I'm 34 and I have a child now. And doctors say that my baby has Down syndrome. Why is it so for two brilliant and successful people? I feel like committing suicide. Now, there are a lot of examples like that. I had to handle the problems of the parents, the families, and all around also. There were cases where the husbands actually left them. Cases where the in-laws harassed them, putting the whole blame on the mother. A child is born because of not the husband's fault. It's purely the mother's and her family's fault. It's agonizing and depressing indeed. But again, took up the challenge of creating awareness. The result was that more facilities came up, more and more people believed in the positive aspect, and parents started bringing their children on a regular basis for various therapies. Earlier, they used to come and then go, and then maybe a few times the therapies, and then they used to fall off. But then they started realizing that therapies have to be given regularly. Finally, I started having a sense of satisfaction and fulfillment. Success stories came up over the years. A person with Down syndrome in our follow-up group is an acclaimed magician. Another, a classical dance exponent and a dance teacher in a school. A calendar girl and a model came up. And recently a film star acting in the lead role of a full-length feature movie, reported to be the first person with Down syndrome in Asia to do so. Examples of those people which I've just mentioned: the magician, the model, the dancer, and the film star. And finally, the expression of faith, hope, and gratification of the parents were the greatest remuneration I obtained. My joy knew no bounds, and I realized that the Almighty had given me a child with Down syndrome for a specific reason, to be a beacon to those in our society. So let's have a tea and then let's carry on passing on the message of love, harmony, and awareness. Thank you.